Hello, everyone. This is Moshe Rothschild, the Global Israel Alliance, bringing you the summary of the news from Israel for the week ending Friday, August 14th, 2020, starting with the top story of the week. That is, of course, Israel announced that they've reached a peace agreement with the United Arab Emirates. This took everybody by surprise. It was quite a shock. And I'll just tell you that a couple things about that and my thoughts, my opinion regarding that. Number one, this is the first peace agreement that Israel has made since 1994, when we made a peace agreement with Jordan. So this is really extraordinary. And in order to affect this peace treaty, the news reported that Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he would postpone the annexation of the West Bank, or parts of it, what we call Judea and Samaria, in exchange for this agreement. Now, my personal opinion is that it didn't seem to me that Netanyahu was actually going to ever go through with annexation. Now, so it seems to me that he only gave up something that he wasn't ever really going to do. So we essentially got something for nothing. So I think, of course, we haven't seen all the details, but I think this is an incredible thing. The Arab nations have always said they will not negotiate peace with Israel until we settle issues with the Palestinians. So the fact that United Arab Emirates agreed to this makes me think that other Arab nations are going to follow, Saudi Arabia, perhaps, Bahrain. And it could be a new era in the Middle East where Israel will achieve peace with many Arab nations, despite the fact that our issues with the Palestinians have not been resolved. So this is something that's extremely, extremely exciting, and we'll have to keep monitoring this story and see what the details are of this agreement. But it's very, very positive in my opinion. This past week, our health minister, Yuli Edelstein, said that he would investigate the vaccine that Russia claims to have developed. They said that they are now starting to disseminate this vaccine in Russia, but my opinion is that it seems quite sketchy. But we'll see. All options are on the table. Israel has already signed contracts with two American companies for the option to buy their vaccines should they prove successful. Israel will begin the trial of its own vaccine just after the Jewish holidays, and the human trials will start in October. Balloons, incendiary balloons, continue to be launched into Israel from Gaza, starting fires in border communities. That continued this week. The IDF carried out strikes against Hamas targets in Gaza with tanks and helicopters and fighter jets in response to the attacks. The United Nations interim force in Lebanon, that's called UNIFIL, their mandate is up for renewal next month. Israel and the U.S. are demanding that the UN force gets more authority to actually ensure Hezbollah, that's a terrorist group in the UN, to ensure their compliance with the UN resolutions. Right now, the UN force in Lebanon basically has the same authority that the Boy Scouts have in the United States, and they don't even get to sell cookies. That would be the Girl Scouts. This week, Hamas fired a barrage of at least 4 rockets towards the Mediterranean Sea, which was supposed to be a warning to Israel, but we will see what they're warning us about. This week, Netanyahu and Gantz, who's the defense minister, agreed on a compromise to extend the deadline for passing a budget for several months in order to avoid the potential another round of elections here in Israel. Netanyahu wants a 1-year budget, and Gantz wants a 2-year budget. This week, thousands of Palestinians illegally entered Israel while the IDF looked the other way through a fence in order to go to the beaches in Jaffa, Herzliya, Haifa, Netanya, Tel Aviv, and so on. And the IDF has made no comment about the story, but I do have a friend who was at the beach and saw hundreds of Arabs, Palestinians on the beaches, which is quite an interesting story. While there is no tourism to Israel, hotel and vacation rentals in the north and the south are full, as Israelis who usually travel abroad during the summer are vacationing here in the country. Israel this week tested the Arrow 2 missile against a simulated Iranian attack. And this happened this past Thursday. The test was highly successful. And in the simulation, it shot down a missile that was made to look like an Iranian ballistic missile. The Israeli Supreme Court passed a ruling, decided to protect a terrorist's home from demolition. As you know, in Israel, a way to deter terrorists is that when a terrorist commits a terrorist attack in Israel, we demolish their family home. And it has proven to be a successful deterrent. So the Supreme Court, though, ruled against the destruction of the home of the murderer of the IDF soldier Amit Ben Yigal in a 2-1 decision. Hundreds of people gathered in front of the home of the High Court Judge Meni Mazuz on Monday night to protest this, in my opinion, travesty. So that is the news from Israel this week. This coming week will be marking the first day of the Hebrew month of Elul, which is the beginning of really our march to the high holidays, a month later with the Jewish holiday of the New Year's or Rosh Hashanah. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbat, or if you call it the weekend, a wonderful weekend. And this is Rabbi Moshe Rothschild from the Global Israel Alliance, coming to you from the Holy Land of Israel. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom.